Let's talk about crazy questions that bus drivers receive while doing their job. You probably didn't realize that bus drivers, we get a lot of interesting and crazy questions thrown our way while we're at work. For example, I had a guy get on the bus and ask me, hey, do you go to that one bus stop down there? And I was like, which bus stop are you talking about? Like, what's the street? What's the intersection? He was like, you know, that bus stop down there. Do you go to that bus stop? And I was like, well, you're gonna have to give me more details, because if you just say that bus stop down there, I'm not sure exactly which bus stop you are talking about. So then he just goes, man, forget it. I'll just request a stop when we get to it. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's what you should do. I didn't respond that way, but mentally, that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, you should do that. So once we got to his stop, he requested it prior to me getting to the stop. And then he walks up to the front to exit out of the front door. And he looks at me and says, this is the stop I was talking about. And then he walks off the bus. And I'm like, how was I supposed to know which stop you were talking about if you just say that stop down there? So we're gonna take a look at some more funny and interesting and weird questions that bus drivers have received from actual bus drivers. So here we go. Do you know when this bus leaves while I'm sitting in the bus driver's seat? And yes, that happens all the time. You're in the seat, you could be like on a layover, or maybe you're at a time point, you're a little early, you have a couple of minutes to wait, and a person will say, do you know what time this bus leaves? And it's like, I do, because I'm operating this bus. So typically, the bus driver will know. I guess a better question would be, hey, what time do you leave? And we actually get that question a lot. Someone asked if I take the bus home with me after my shift. And typically with transit buses, we're not able to take our buses to our personal residence in between or after our shifts. However, I used to be a school bus driver, and I did have the option / privilege of having what's called home bus. And it's exactly what it sounds like. In between my runs, I could take the bus home. So here's another situation from that same bus driver. Another time I broke down at a transit center and had a coolant leak. A guy asked when I was going to start fixing the bus so he could go to work. So the guy was under the impression that the bus drivers also double as mechanics. And I'm pretty sure there are some bus drivers out there that also know how to fix cars, trucks, and buses. But when you're working in the position of being a bus driver or bus operator, you are not going to be fixing the buses. They have staff and people that they pay a certain amount of money to come out and fix the buses. So if your bus breaks down, the bus driver is not going to fix the bus. They're going to call it in and they're going to send someone to either fix the bus, or the bus may have to be towed, and they may have to bring an entirely different bus out there to continue the route. Here's another question that's pretty typical. I've gotten this question quite a bit. Is it hard to drive the bus? And they go on to say, I wouldn't really call it an interesting question, but they're more fascinated by the answer. You get used to it and it becomes the easiest thing in the world. I drive a bus for about 8 hours longer than my car every day. And that is very interesting for bus drivers. We drive buses way more than we drive our personal vehicles.
He ain't lying.
And no, it's not really hard to drive a bus, but you do have to learn how to drive a bus because it is different from a car. It's the same principles, but you're operating a different type of vehicle. When you get to the airport, can you please wait while I run to use the restroom? And yes, not just at the airport, but I've had people say, hey man, I've got to use the bathroom. Do you mind if I step outside and pee in the bushes? Can you wait for me? And it's like, unfortunately, with the city bus, we cannot accommodate people's need to use the restroom. You just have to get off the bus and use it and probably catch the next bus. Some people ask the same question every day. They know the answer, but I think they ask because for that moment or two, they get human interaction. I always did my best to be extra kind to them. 10 seconds of compassion makes a big difference. And that is true. Some people will talk to you just because they don't have anyone else to talk to. And yeah, it can be a little irritating sometimes. It can be a little bothersome. But like this person said, just a little bit of compassion could actually make that person's day. And it could be the one thing that lets them know that somebody cares. Somebody hears them. Bus driver, can I smoke this joint while we go down the road? I said, sure. Can we get the cops involved too? Now here in California, the marijuana thing, it's legal. So I don't think the cops would really care about what they're smoking as far as marijuana is concerned, but you're not supposed to smoke on the bus. And I have had people try and smoke on the bus while I'm driving, and I have to pull the bus over, open up all the doors, and let them know that they're gonna have to remove themselves and smoke outside of the bus, and hopefully they'll be ready for the next bus. This is a first. Instead of asking for an intersection or a specific address, this lady gave me the bus stop number only. Like I'm supposed to know all 7,200 bus stop numbers. And if you're wondering what this person meant by the bus stop numbers, you can see right here on this bus stop where it's circled at, there is a number right there, 668. So even though this bus stop is served by the routes 11, 51, 102, and 106, the official number for the bus stop where you can identify that bus stop is 668 for that particular bus stop. And let me tell you, bus drivers, we don't memorize the numbers to the stops. So if I'm driving a route and you get on the bus and say, hey, do you stop at bus stop number 668? I don't know. The best thing I would say is to have an intersection in mind, not even an address. Like if you come up like, do you go to 1234 West Main Street? May not know, but if you say, do you go to 5th and Main? The bus driver may be able to help you better with an intersection. But in most cases, bus drivers definitely not going to be able to identify where you need to go with a bus stop number. So that's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
But if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, and thank you for watching Bus Driver Life.